The movie A Fistful of Dynamite, also known as Duck You Sucker, is a 1971 action western directed by Sergio Leone and starring Rod Seeger and James Coburn as main characters Juan and John. The movie focuses on a greedy bandit named Juan who meets an explosive expert/Irish revolutionary outlaw named John. After stealing a passenger carriage full of racist rich white people, John meets the revolutionary and shoots down his motorcycle with the intent to steal whatever valuables he has. John then pulls a gun on him, and John reacts by throwing a stick of dynamite at the stolen carriage, which blows a hole in its roof. Juan realizes that this man could be a valuable asset in robbing a notorious bank in the city of Mesa Verde. This in turn kicks off the main plot of the story, where Juan ends up getting wrapped up in the Mexican Revolution after finding political prisoners in the Mesa Verde bank instead of money, and gets made into an accidental Revolutionary War hero. How does the movie connect to Western expansion?
While the movie is primarily set in Mexico during the Revolution, it indirectly connects to the concept of Western expansion through its portrayal of the revolutionary struggle. Western expansion was a significant aspect of American history, characterized by the movement of settlers and the extension of U.S. influence and control over Western territories. The Mexican Revolution, depicted in this film, reflects the upheaval and change that occurred in the western regions of North America during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. This is emulated by the thesis of that Dunbar Ortiz puts forward a critical examination of the historical violence and genocidal actions perpetrated by the United States against Native American populations, particularly focusing on the methods employed by settlers, militias, and the military. It highlights the role of savage warfare, counterinsurgency tactics, and the eradication of indigenous peoples as integral components of American expansionism and imperialism. The document emphasizes the continuity of such practices throughout the American history and their impact of Native communities, challenging narratives of American exceptionalism and exposing the systemic violence underlying the nation's development. Everett, how does Juan's lust for riches connect to the United States gold rush?
In A Fistful of Dynamite, the main character, Juan's main motive is to rob a bank for its riches. Juan and his pursuit of wealth in the movie mirrors the historical context of the gold rush's era, as by German of the promise of prosperity and fortune, but ultimately being used for a greater purpose. For example, Juan's greed was used to free political prisoners in the movie, and the people's greed for gold was used by the U.S.'s government to increase its influence and territory.
How does the assassination of Juan's bandits and allies in the Revolution connect to how indigenous people were treated during the U.S. expansion?
They were treated as nuisances and cannon fodder as the main ruling government, and they deemed them unnecessary for the country's development, or even worse, a hindrance to it. This caused great discrimination against the people and an almost all-right civil war.
Luke, how does the movie portray Western people?
The movie portrays Western people as violent and brutal. As you can see during the beginning of the movie, Juan and his group of bandits ambush and ransack this carriage at gunpoint and push them down a hill, as well as shot and killed one of the people they had ambushed. Silas, is Juan and John a good representation of how people interacted and used each other during the Western expansion?
Well, we see the connection of betrayal when John had manipulated Juan for the benefit of what John wanted to accomplish in the end, and only for his own benefit, and using Juan's greed for money to trick him into thinking he was robbing a bank, but it was all is for releasing prisoners that John had the need to help. This is similar to how the colonizers used the minorities in America during the Western expansion. It is shown on our reader on page 163. There is a photograph of Chinese people laying down the last parts of the railroad for the Union Pacific Railroad. These both show the using and manipulation of people to only benefit themselves over anyone else during these times. How do outlaws turned heroes in American history connect to Juan, Everett?
Dunbar Ortiz's claims that violent war crimes were turned into heroes like Jesse James. Like this, Juan was a bandit and a criminal, but became a war hero after accidentally freeing political prisoners, after which all his actions in the movie are later excused in the name of the greater good. However, he still slaughters dozens of people. This connects to Roxane Dunbar's thesis in her book Loaded, where she details her thoughts on the famous outlaw Jesse James. Jesse James was 16 years old in 1863 when he joined the Missouri pro-Confederate guerrillas. His older brother Frank was already an experienced member. Jesse had less than 20 years left to live, in which time he became one of the most famous men alive. Among his mentors in the past 2 years as being a guerrilla was Archie Clements. Together, the two were involved in particularly gruesome killings, including the mutilations of corpses. After the war ended, Clements led a group of former guerrillas, including Jesse, in an armed robbery of a bank. Soon, Clements found himself was murdered, and the leadership fell to the now 21-year-old Jesse James. By 1868, this group became known as the James Youngers, which Jesse at its head and included his brother Frank, Cole, and Jim Younger, and the 4 other former Confederate guerrillas. 2 younger brothers, John and Bob, were not guerrillas during the war, but also rode with the gang. They robbed banks and trains in Missouri, Kansas, Iowa, and Kentucky until 1876, when the enterprise collapsed and failed attempt to stick up a bank in Northfield, Missouri. This is similar to how Juan in the movie was a bandit who, with his gang of recruited family members, shot their guns and stole goods from the rich, with Juan's ultimate goal of being able to rob the bank at Mesa Verde, seeking great wealth and prosperity.
In conclusion, A Fistful of Dynamite explores the complexities of revolution, friendship, betrayal, and sacrifice amidst the backdrop of the Mexican Revolution. The Mexican Revolution depicted in the film reflects the upheaval and change that occurred in the western regions of North America during the late 19th and 20th centuries, offering a poignant narrative of unexpected heroism and personal redemption. The film also explores the relationship between Mexican bandits and the peasant communities during the Revolution.
Thank you for your time and listening to our presentation. We hope you have a good day.